Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I'm Brad, here with Doug.
Hi.
Doug just got back from PAX East, which I am super jealous of, and got to play a whole bunch of games.
hmm
Overall, how was it? Just general PAX good? You go
Yeah, it
to
was
you've
great.
been This is what, your third one?
Yes, this is my third one. I
Nice.
think I think the big thing I was disappointed is like, oh no, Sony's not there. But then I realized like, okay, that's just essentially one booth of like the other 80 booths I see.
Yeah.
And usually I don't spend a lot of time with the Sony one anyway. This time I actually got a lot of time to because I wasn't. I think the first few packs I was kind of like, oh my god, this is amazing. I gotta play as many games as possible. But now that the shine of that's kind of gone away, I feel like more comfortable just like spending time talking with devs, which is like the
Nice.
much more interesting aspect of it.
Oh,
The
for sure,
best
I'm
like
sure.
yeah, the best times I had there was like asking a question to Kamiya and then talking with the devs of Alien Hominid and stuff for like a long time because I wasn't so stressed out about like seeing everything.
Yeah.
So it's nice. It's like to me it's kind of like to me this is like, oh, I'm definitely gonna be going every year now, and I don't need to be like super hyped every year. It's like now I have kind of like my expectations set for what PAX is, and I really enjoy it.
That's awesome.
It definitely lost its luster of like holy shit, but it's still
I can
fun. It's still
imagine.
a lot of fun. Yeah.
I can imagine. So you mentioned Alien Hominid. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of run through 8 or 9 games that you kind of saw, played, had some
Yep.
interaction with over the last 2 days. And
Yeah.
one of the ones you want to start with is Alien Hominid, which I can't figure out if this is like a sequel, a reimagining, or what exactly this is, because they've been really kind of loose with like the quick trailer that came out. But
Yeah.
but the first I know is a Xbox 360 game, kind of came around,
Mhm.
and they've done a couple other games as well. So what
Yeah.
exactly is up with the new Alien Hominid?
So Alien Hominid is like so I played the Flash game way back in the day. I never actually played the full release. But this was the game. The reason I want to talk about this first because this was probably my most surprising game at PAX because I just saw it there. I was like, okay, Alien Hominid. I kind of enjoyed the Flash game back in the day. Let's see how this is doing. Alien Hominid is so freaking fun. So the new game's called Hominid Invasion, and what they basically did is it's the same sort of 2D shooting game that you're kind of thinking of. Like if you're thinking Alien Hominid, it's a 2D platformer with shooting, kind of an action game. You shoot quote unquote FBI agents. They said now they're no longer FBI agents. I think they just called them agents or something like that.
Generalize it a bit more.
Yeah, exactly. And you're an evil alien who's trying to take over the world. And so with this one, it's called Alien Hominid Invasion. And what they did is they kind of added this whole cool extra layer on top of it. So instead of just going like level by level, you're now slowly taking over a city. And how you do that is you basically have kind of a grid of a city. And each point on that grid is a new level. And you can kind of pick your way that you want to go through the city
Oh,
based on
that's
like
cool.
how dangerous it is to like each level. So like you could like see like a really hard level that has good loot, which I'll talk about in a second. Not as bad. I don't want you to get scared too quick. um, or like if you stay in an area too long, the danger gets too high, so you got to move out. So you have to like get out of the way. And literally, it's just kind of a way to make it level select interesting. So instead of just going from point A to point B,
Yeah.
like level 1, level 2, is that you can actually sort of like set your difficulty. Like if I want to go to a hard level, I can do that right now. If I want to go to kind of like I can tell by the danger level, like an easier level.
Do those
Um,
shift as you go? So like some games where they have kind of that overviewing map, like the agents might take back a spot, or there'll be if you
mhm.
wait long enough, the agents like gather in that spot, so it gets harder. Does it
Yeah,
evolve like
it's
that,
it's
or is it
exact.
just
Yeah, no, it's exactly like that. So like the map is changing. So like as I beat this level, other levels on this grid are doing other things. That like and like basically, so like literally, it's just kind of like a city grid sort of thing.
nice?
Um, and it's really cool. So so now I've selected a level. Instead of just being like you're going left to right, you can now go in any direct. Well, any direction. You can go left or right. There's only two.
Whoa.
It's still 2D. And it's cool because you have like little missions to do within that. So you could have like so let's say over the course of a single level, it could be just like kill a bunch of guys, collect their stuff, and then drop it off at this point. But then the other thing is also like, okay, now you have to go collect like 3 of these things sort of dispersed throughout the level. Okay, now you have to beat this boss. Okay, now you have to do this. So you have like 4 or 5 tasks that are
Yeah.
kind of in sequence throughout the level. And it's kind of fun because it definitely swaps up how you play. Like you might need to do a mission where you like need to get from point A to point B in the level as fast as you can. And it's all over the course of a single level, and the game feels so tight. It just feels absolutely amazing. And I had mentioned loot earlier. There's actually some like action RPG elements to it. So you can like change like how high your character jumps. the damage they do, how fast they shoot, how much they do this, how much they do that. So they basically just took. So what they did is they basically took like this alien hominid, you know, really nice core gameplay, and they just add all these kind of like additional strategy elements to it, and not in it like they didn't change the genre. It's still a shooter. Yeah. But they just changed it into an action RPG shooter with some neat strategic elements on top of it. And it was like I talked with the dev for a long time, and they were super excited about it, and I was super excited about it because I expected nothing going into it. I was just like, okay, we'll see. And
surprises are always good.
Yeah, it's probably one of those fun games I played at PAX.
Nice.
Yeah.
So moving on here, this one I'm curious about just because you brought this to my attention last year, and then it got a big boost. I think it was Microsoft's E3 presentation last year, if I remember correctly. That's the Artful Escape. So I know you played it last year.
Played it 2 years ago, I think.
Was it 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay, wow. But I know it got a big thing at last year's E3, I think.
Yes.
So what's up with this game? Is it still the same cool thing? Or...
Yeah, I would recommend just going back and listening to my other one. we did another PAX video like in 2017 where I discussed Artful Escape, and I don't want to get into it too hard just as a result, because it's basically the exact same game it was back then, but just a lot better. It's just so much nicer looking. Like the art style in the game is so striking.
Oh yeah.
I went 2 days and I brought two different coworkers with me, and I made them play that game both times, and they're both like, wow, this game is absolutely amazing. It's like, again, it's like I don't want to totally repeat myself from it, but basically it's a side scroller. You're going from left and right, you're jumping, but one of the things you can do is quote unquote just hold X to shred. At any point in time you can summon a guitar, and they did a lot of cool stuff since the last time I saw it, where like every guitar riff you do just by holding down X like perfectly matches with the music that's going on in the background. So it's like every riff you play, you're just like adding to the soundtrack. And then on top of that, the environment now reacts to the beat of whatever you're shredding to, I don't know. I mean, that's about it. It's really cool. It's pretty straightforward. You just go from point A to point B. You shred your guitar occasionally, and every once in a while you do a cool sort of like Simon Says puzzle when you're talking with monsters. Yeah, I just want to say that game is still awesome. I think if that game is not on your radar, you definitely should.
Oh, for sure.
And
I think it's just one that if you watch a trailer, you instantly get an idea of what the game's trying to do.
Yeah. I think the one thing that the trailer doesn't really fully conceive is how weird the dialogue is. The dialogue is super strange. It's like and I hate when people are like, oh, this is trippy, so you must be high sort of thing. But like literally, it is like the highest dialogue I've ever heard in my life. It's just like the setup is that you're looking for a jazz club that is not missing, but it changes places, like in time and space. And it's just currently in an abandoned city deep within a cavern. It's a weird game, and when the characters talk, they're basically like, it's like, what do you want out of life? It's like, I want to trip on the sound waves of life, man. Or it's just this really, really psychedelic talking, like speech options and stuff. I thought that was kind of fun. Very cool game.
Really getting into the feeling of that one then, and
yeah, and honestly, like,
everything all wrap up. Yeah, in the mood.
It's done with such. It does that psychedelic art style with such precision that's like really cool. Like they like creatures, just like really well defined creatures that are inspired by psychedelics. It's a really, really cool game.
Nice.
Yeah, that's all I got to say about
it. So a little bit of a different genre style here. Streets of Rage 4.
Streets of Rage 4. Holy shit.
Really? So my only impression with Streets of Rage, and if I played the original, it wasn't for very long. That would have been, 20 years ago. But
yeah.
So all I'm thinking is just, cool, it's a beat 'em up.
Yeah. Oh, no, you're not wrong.
Yeah, but that's like all I got is just, cool, it's a beat 'em up, and we don't get many beat 'em ups now.
Yeah, it's a beat 'em up. I think with a lot of more recent beat 'em ups I've played, like, they don't feel really, really tight. There's just something about like modern beat 'em up, especially the Scott Pilgrim game. Like a lot of people really love that game. It just doesn't feel really, really tight. So Streets of Rage 4, first of all, the game looks incredible. I think in screenshots, it's kind of hard to tell. You're like, oh, it kind of looks like a Flash animation or something like that. It's like, and I can kind of get that. but when you play this game, it just looks. It is like it's a game that'll catch your eye.
Nice.
It is so good looking. But the beating up people feels so good. It is so tight. The hit response just like it's like pretty much any compared to, and like I played a few other beat 'em ups, so like I'm not going to mention at PAX. There was one that was right next to Streets of Rage 4, and then you could just feel that difference of like that tightness of Streets of Rage 4, like the power your characters feel, how they animate. And then just right next to another beat 'em up that couldn't live up to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't even play a lot of beat 'em ups. I didn't really play Streets of Rage 1 through 3 on Genesis, like a lot of people who might be talking about this game. So I kind of came into like a little bit fresh. But that was one of those games that like totally like took me by surprise. I just happened to get in line because it was like, oh, there's only one person. A lot of these games I played because there wasn't a long line. like, like I was like, oh, I could play Doom, but it's like an hour wait for Doom. I was like, I'm going to buy Doom. Like,
I'm playing that in Doom. 3 weeks either way, so why wait an extra hour?
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I was like, yeah. But Streets of Rage 4, like there had been long lines for I just happened to sneak in, sort of thing, because the line was short for a split second. And that game just feels so good. It looks so good. The characters, there's like 6 characters you can play as, and they all look really cool. It's not just like because I think from what I don't remember there being that many characters. I think they've only shown off like 2 or 3 so far. But the one character I played as was this like black teenage girl, and she has a guitar, and she just like beats people with the guitar, and all of her specials are like guitar riffs and stuff.
Sensing
and
a
it's
trend.
just, yeah, it is. It is cool. It's a really, really cool game. And it plays really, really, really well. I think people who are like, there's a lot of people who are like kind of like worried it's not from the original devs and that sort of thing. Like, that is a game to get excited for. It's gonna be great. Absolutely, it's gonna be great.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the rest of these, or most of these, are things that I don't have much knowledge on. So you're kind of gonna have to walk me through a little bit about what's going on with these. But something called No Straight Roads.
No Straight Roads. Yeah. So No Straight Roads is a game. They definitely like to talk about this too. Like in the trailer, it's like from the lead designer of Final Fantasy 15, from the character designer of Street Fighter 5. I think it was like a concept art from Street Fighter 5. So what it is, it's a from what I could tell, I don't totally quote me on this. It's like a boss rush sort of game, kind of like Shadow of the Colossus is a boss rush game. It's just like it's mostly of these bosses, and what. I guess the best way to describe it, it's kind of like, you know, those like super epic Kingdom Hearts boss battles near the end.
Yeah.
Like, what if you just made a game of those? And then everything is set to music.
Ooh.
So like all of the bosses' attacks are music based. So like you know when to jump because
based on
not
the
only
music.
based on the music and the character animations. And then the art style looks like really similar to Psychonauts, like shockingly so, like suspiciously
so. Kind of cartoony.
Yeah, it's super cartoony. It's super cartoony, and I think the whole concept is it's like I love concepts for like a lot of these games. They're like a lot of music games have this. It's like a new corporation has stepped down to stomp down rock music, but the corporation is evil EDM music.
Mm-hmm.
And I think NSR is like, I think the game's called No Straight Roads, and the NSR are the bad guys, and they're trying to smash down rock by bringing in EDM, but the soundtrack is like mostly good EDM. I don't know. It's very strange. Like, I don't know what they're trying to say. And the rock music isn't really rocking. It's like, you guys have better electronic music. But anyway, so the boss battle I played, it starts in the back of a theater, and you're basically running down, and there's somebody playing the piano on stage, and you're like walking by basically like a crowd of people listening, and you want to stop her from playing music. I don't know why. It doesn't really make sense. But anyway, the boss battle takes place on yeah, the boss battle takes place on stage, and you're fighting the piano as the person's playing. And so it's like a little girl who's playing the piano, and like she's sending musical notes at you. But then there's this mother character, so it's her mom, who's like kind of like, I guess like an evil helicopter mom or something, who's like this giant creature that like picks her up and then starts hitting you while like trying to protect her
Nice.
like piano playing daughter. And it was really cool because the boss battle has like 5 phases or something, and it felt like those sort of Kingdom Hearts things where like the stage explodes at one point. Now you're flying in the air fighting this giant mother character, and one of her cool attacks was like they play piano with the music, and her attack is basically it gives you like kind of red zones of like, hey, here's where the attack is coming, and what it is, the red zones, they play the piano keys along with the music. So you see these big red stripes that kind of match the piano keys in the music, and then these giant keys come down to hit you. It's super cool. At the point in time, it was super rough.
Well,
yeah, I think it's like 2 years out still or something like that. But just the concept of it was really cool. It's just like a bunch of Kingdom Hearts battles that kind of looks like Psychonauts, set to cool music.
That's like 3 of your checkmark. 3 of your things off the checklist right there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It looks cool. I think it's a game that you'd probably enjoy too. I just hope they kind of tighten everything up. It was super rough when I was playing it, but it looks cool.
Nice. Yeah. Next one here, Pathless, which I actually forgot about, but this is from Giant Squid, who did Abzu. Mm-hmm. So you didn't get to play this one? They just had like a demo you could see, or?
No, I just didn't want to wait in line.
So important enough that you wanted to talk about.
Instead of waiting in line, I sat and talked with the dev for 15 minutes. So.
Okay.
So Pathless is by the guys who did Abzu, and so the game is an open world game, which I wasn't expecting.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so it's like an open world game, and what you do is you travel around this open world, kind of can go, and there's like a bunch of, the way they described it is like there's evil spirits taking over, and you must cleanse the forest of the evil spirits, and then once you cleanse enough spirits, you get to fight the evil spirit. So basically it's like you go to one area, you do some objectives, and then you fight a boss.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But there's an open world in between.
Yeah, exactly. And the game just looked absolutely gorgeous. And one of the things they really wanted to stress was character movement. Like, that was the big thing they wanted to focus on more than anything, because your character moving through this open world runs really fast. And one of the cool things they did with your bow and arrow, so instead of just like you can shoot monsters or whatever, what the cool thing is that they set up targets. So when you shoot something as you're running, what it does, it gives you a speed boost.
Okay.
So you're running, you see a target, you don't even have to aim it, it just kind of auto targets for you. You press square and you just boost faster to the forest. So I was watching a guy playing, he's running through a forest, like boost. So you're just like flying through a forest as his character's running through it, and it like the character animation was so cool to seeing a character run that fast. That's not Sonic.
So what is this game like? Because Abzu, you just kind of float through the ocean, and they came from I'm blanking on the devs.
That game company.
Yes, that game company. They did Journey and all those things. So you've got the bow and arrow. Is there more action in this? Is there more to do, more so than a lot of those ones where you're just kind of wandering, or is it still just kind of wandering?
It definitely has sort of that like still kind of wandering tone. It's like, what if you gave like a gun to the Journey character that makes him run fast?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But it is a lot of like sort of like quiet contemplation, running through the forest sort of thing. But there's definitely boss battles that are going on. It's like I think in the trailer they showed like where you're running alongside this giant evil deer thing and like shooting it as you're running alongside it. So I'm really curious how they're going to do this, because I don't remember how many boss battles they said, but they mentioned there's like a number of them. And I'm really curious how they took these sort of mechanics. Like I said, they like what they said, like the biggest focus on for them was just character movement and moving fast. So that's like how those things, like I didn't get to see a lot. I saw a lot of people running through environments, not really fighting boss battles. But they said like all of their boss battles like really try to take that into account, as like you're chasing down. Like the bosses move pretty fast. So like one's a deer. So you need to chase down the deer through the forest.
That's pretty cool.
It looked like really gorgeous. And looked like a lot of fun. It was kind of hard trying to understand like what activities you were doing in the open world. They said there's like some sort of puzzle aspects, but a lot of the puzzles are more like trying to get to a point. That's what they were trying to say. Like a lot of the puzzles are, because the targets, they kind of like pull you forward, but they can also pull you up.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of it is like, I need to climb this tower. How do I go about climbing this tower with the abilities I have?
The traversal puzzles more so than the like figure out where to push the blocks.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't see any block pushing. I saw a lot of running though.
Nice.
Yeah.
Next on the list, another one I've never heard of before, Bonfire Peaks.
Yes. I also had never heard this one before, so it's okay.
Short line.
No line.
All right.
The game just looked really cool. So what Bonfire Peaks is, really, really simply, it's a set of box moving puzzles. Which
No running in this one.
No running in this one. A lot of box puzzling, a lot of walking on a grid, picking up a box, trying to figure out along the grid. Well, I know you're making a face. I make your face. Oof. But the reason I stopped is that it looked really, really cool. It has that voxel art style that, but really, really, really detailed. The one thing that, and the guy, and so what the concept works is that you're picking up a box and you're trying to move it to a bonfire, and you throw it in the bonfire, it gets destroyed, and you beat the level. But they did something really, really cool that I haven't really seen with puzzle games before. And this is kind of the reason I want to talk about it. So you have your overworld. In your overworld, you can actually move around. And then you sit by a bonfire to go into this sort of like mini universe where you have this sort of very specific grid-based puzzle game that you're playing. But once you beat the puzzle, you go back to the overworld. And now that you've beaten this box puzzle, a box appears where you had beaten the puzzle, like on the next to the bonfire. So I'm walking around open world. Yep. I get to a bonfire. I beat the puzzle, and then a box appears. And then the overworld itself is kind of a puzzle. So like that box I've now brought in the overworld, and now I can use that box, put it down, and then get to the next area. Oh, okay, so that's cool. You might need to like stack boxes in certain ways in the overworld that you're earning from beating levels.
So you solved a puzzle, and your reward is another puzzle.
You know, people like puzzle games. You
do. I know, but I don't.
I'm not talking about this because I thought you would like it. But one of the things that I thought was really cool is that when you get to an area in the demo, so you had one bonfire at first to do a level, and it was like kind of a tutorial thing. You pick up the box, you could move on to the next one. But the next one had like 6 bonfires, but you only needed 3 boxes to proceed. So you don't have to beat all of the puzzles to get to the next area. So if you're stuck on one,
when I get frustrated, angry, and want to just turn the game off, I can go, forget this one and move on.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was really cool. So
I like that.
So, yeah, and I just thought that was really clever. I was like, why have I not seen this in other just games in general? Like, I feel like I mean, I guess it's not a super common trope, I'd say, especially for these sort of puzzle games where they kind of give you the option to skip over one that you're just not good at. Yeah. And then maybe you eventually can come back, but you can still keep proceeding forward through the game. And the guy was super cool. And then he's like, it was funny. He's like, the art style was really desaturated. It was like mostly browns. Okay. And like these like really like dark greens, but it just looked really striking for how not colorful it was. Like I like colorful games, but this game with this like really like precise desaturation, which is really, it was just kind of like neat to look at because it just stood out from all the other cartoony games. I think we're like, oh, brown games are ugly immediately, but a brown game with like precision in its brownness can actually look pretty beautiful.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
Another one you didn't play. Yes. Psychonauts 2. Was the line too long, or you just couldn't play?
So I would have waited. I might have waited the hour to play this one. No, what this one was, a behind closed doors exclusive walkthrough. No, all you do is walk into the booth and ask for a ticket, and they gave you a time, and you sat in a little room, and they gave you a demo.
See, you should have left that part out, and we could have pretended like we're professionals for like 30 seconds.
I feel like I could have. I don't know. Yeah, one day. If we get more than a handful of views, then maybe. So Psychonauts 2, I'm excited for that game a little bit. I like Psychonauts 1 a lot. Psychonauts 2, I've just kind of put in the back of my mind. It's like, well, it'll come out eventually, and then we'll see.
Maybe it's your Shenmue 3.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. You're not like chomping at the bit for Shenmue 3. It's like, we'll see. We'll see how this goes.
When it happens and it comes out, I'll love it and I'll enjoy it. But until then, that's fine.
Yeah, and I'm kind of okay with it maybe not being great. So I've seen the Psychonauts 2. You can actually probably go online and actually watch this demo yourself, but I don't know if we saw a more up-to-date version of this demo. Psychonauts 2 looks incredible. I thought it was just jaw-droppingly good looking. The Psychonauts art style, while it's not like, you're not going to be like, oh, completely blown. I guess people like realistic art styles is not Uncharted 4, but just the art style that Psychonauts is going with, it seems like they couldn't pack in any more within this constraints of the art style. Like they just absolutely filled up how do I describe this? they basically fulfilled the Psychonauts art style. Like, I feel like when you're playing Psychonauts 1, there's kind of stuff like, okay, well, it's on running on an Xbox or it's running on an old PC, and it kind of looks about as good as it could. But this is just like, no, this is the Psychonauts universe in its most perfect
This is what we
form.
wanted it to look like when we envisioned this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the thing that was like really crazy is that basically the whole opening is just this one giant set piece, which I'm trying to remember Psychonauts too much. I don't remember having like too many set pieces, but you're basically running through a corporate office in somebody's mind that's also being kind of invaded at the same time. So like you're running through cubicles and all of a sudden the floor will shift up. So now you're actually, your perspective changes. So you're now kind of like running on the ceiling, or you're running along, or you're using the cubicles. You're kind of like you're looking at the floor. So you're jumping on the cubicles, kind of like a platform, like a 2D platformer all of a sudden. The game just looked really, really good. And this is like a weird thing to describe, but I think Psychonauts 1, the gameplay was when you played it was like really floaty. Like there's not like a lot of like oomph to stuff.
Yes.
And in this one, again, I didn't have my hands on it, so I can't like really talk to it too much, but it looked a lot snappier. It looked like the jumps were not as floaty. She was doing the person who was playing it. She was the hits just felt like they were hitting harder. It didn't feel like you just like swiping in air. It looked like it felt tighter, but it was enough to make me go, oh, they really, really, really thought about this, and they are changing it as a result. The game was running at 60 frames per second too, and so I don't know, it looked like a modern precision platformer, kind of like what you'd hope for, like a Mario Odyssey or something like that.
Nice.
And
I think the fact
really
that you can mention a sentence with Mario Odyssey is probably high praise in and of itself.
There's not many like precise 3D platformers these days with like really tight controls.
Also true.
Yeah. But it looked like they really worked hard on it, and the game was really funny. And the setup, I think the Psychonauts 2, they really set this cool balance of this is a serious situation that you can get invested in, and then the jokes on top don't actually take away from the seriousness of the situation, but there's also a really funny game. I feel like it's really nice, like when you can. I think a lot of funny games, like they'll just be too ridiculous that you don't care about anything.
Yeah.
But they definitely made you really, really care about the scenario that was ongoing. And it was cool because it's the first time you see all the Psychonauts actually work together as a team. So you're Raz and you're running through, but you're also you're all going into this one bad guy's mind. So you're seeing the different layers of all that, what each person can do with their powers and that sort of thing.
Nice.
It was really, really cool.
Very cool. So moving on. Sakuna, which I had never heard. You made me watch a trailer. Kind of looks like Muramasa or those Vanillaware games. Kind of something in that vein. You got to play this one, right?
I did.
Which is probably good, because if it's anything like those, you need to play it for it to make sense.
Yeah. So if you ever play Vanillaware games like Odin Sphere and Muramasa, they are 2D action RPGs that are super fun, and you can do a lot of cool combos.
Yep.
It's kind of like a side-scrolling Devil May Cry with like cool action RPG thrown on top.
Yep.
This is another one of those, and it plays really well. That's it. It looks really cool. Okay, all right. It's 3D. It's not 2D. But it's so similar to those other games that it was a ton of fun to play. I played the Switch version, and I saw the PS4 version running. Would not recommend the Switch version. It ran at a very solid 30 frames per second and looked real rough.
So when you say 3D, are you saying it's more in the vein of like a Bayonetta Devil May Cry, or is it still that vanilla?
Oh, no. It's still 2D. It's still 2D left to right. It's just like it's 3D visuals. It's not 2D visuals.
Oh, gotcha.
It's a 2.5D or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, gotcha. That weird middle ground. Nice.
Yeah, but I was like picking stuff up. I was equipping things. I was getting higher power levels. I was, fighting bosses. It all felt really cool. And you have this cool like kind of grapple thing that you've seen in probably other games, but you can grapple around so you can like flip around the environment really, really fast and combo. And it's just another one of those. And those games are really, really fun. There is a whole other aspect, that like a farming aspect that like they didn't talk about or mention at all. So I don't know how that plays into it.
You got to differentiate somehow. So
yeah. So who knows? I mean, this whole cool action RPG might even be like just like half of the game, and you're actually farming for most of it, which would be a big disappointment.
Well, you got to fight your way to get to the seeds or something.
Yeah. Hopefully,
Stardew Valley's popular. So last one on the list, Evolutis, which you also didn't play. This is another one I haven't heard of.
I hadn't heard of this one either. This one had this was one of those games that was just striking. that you just saw it playing on a TV and you were just immediately drawn to it. There's a lot of people just crowding around, just watching the game. So what Evolutis is, it's a cyberpunk action. It's not an action adventure game. It's an adventure game that's set in a sort of a cyberpunk universe. And the thing that's cool is that you play as like full scale 2D humans, and you're walking left to right, but then you can also like walk in and out of the frame. So like if I'm like walking left to right as a character, 2D sketched character,
Yep.
I'm walking across, and if I walk into an alley in the foreground, like I'll actually walk into the foreground and like the background will shift.
Oh, cool.
So now I'm like in the next alley over, and from basically what the developer was telling me is like it's basically a game where you go around, like you talk to people, you do some sort of like mini game stuff.
Yeah.
But the few things that's kind of stuck out is that the game looks just utterly incredible. I think this would be a hard game just talk about that actually seeing like some actually seeing it in motion.
Mm-hmm.
The game was insanely violent. Like so instead of just like you're not just like attacking, like press XXX to attack, it kind of goes through more of like a sequence where you're kind of like, it's more like quick time events. So they're just like these like really cool elaborate animations of like you beating a guy's head against a wall and then cutting his head off, but done like this amazing like really really cool 2D art style. That's like it was pretty graphic, a lot of swearing. There's like a guy in a panda suit who's like really depressed and like tells you to fuck off and stuff. It was really really cool looking. I don't know, there's not much to talk about right now. One of the things they did talk about is like there's 3 characters and you're playing through 3 character stories that then kind of all intertwine near the end.
Yeah.
But the thing they were talking about is like they're kind of like different gameplay. So the one they were showing off is a guy who's kind of like Harrison Ford in Blade Runner. The cool thing that was cool, like when you actually pull out a gun, you don't just shoot it, you can like pull out a gun and then call for somebody's attention. Like the situation that they had was you are walking up to your bike and you see somebody trying to hotwire it.
Yeah.
And then you pull out the gun with like the right trigger, and then you like instead of just like shooting, you can call out to them. So like you yell
cool.
at so he chose to yell at him, and the guy turns around and realizes there's a gun pointed in his face, and that's when they have sort of like a discussion back and forth about like what's going on about the situation. So it's definitely more of kind of like I don't know, it was too different looking from Telltale just to say Telltale. But it's definitely more of like a conversation-based game. They also said like one of the other characters is a girl who, and they say that kind of fights in sort of like a Streets of Rage style, and the other guy's sort of like a hacker, so you do like a lot of hacking mini games and that sort of thing. It kind of reminded me of like Yakuza or something, where you have like these Yakuza 4 and 5, like you have all these different characters and slowly
you're bouncing back and forth and
and then all their stories kind of start combining at the end in interesting ways.
Nice.
And she said like they don't actually like each other, which is kind of fun.
Oh, the main characters?
Yeah. So like some of them might actually be enemies like between each other. So it looked really really cool. Yeah.
Nice. That was all you gave me on your list.
Yeah.
Any other stuff to throw out before we wrap this thing up?
Good question. I think Sony being gone wasn't that bad. I think that if you're the best time to spend at PAX is like not waiting in line for games you're gonna play, like you're probably gonna play anyway.
Yeah.
And I would say I think the best times I had at PAX is just talking with devs. I think it's really interesting sitting there playing a game, talking to the dev about what their intentions of the game are, and then playing the game. Because I feel like sometimes you're like, why are we doing, like, why is the character doing this? Why are they doing that? And it's just really neat. Like, and you get like straight from the horse's mouth. And like the devs are excited about their games, and they're excited that you're excited about their game. So like, just don't spend the time just playing games, but like actually learning about games. Also, I saw a panel about gamification of college classes, and that was super interesting. And this would actually probably be a topic for me and you to talk about afterwards.
Yes, but there are many things that we could discuss on that topic.
But it was really cool. They like gamified a class at Brown on literature, and they had actually kind of put like a plot to the class. Mm-hmm. And all of the assignments were based around that plot. But the assignments were like reading Tarzan and then ways you could interpret Tarzan for this character. It was actually really cool. And the professor said it was like one of the highest. It was like he had been teaching for 30 years at Brown, and it was the highest rating he had ever gotten as a professor.
Well, yeah, you get high engagement from your students, and that's instantly
going to happen, yeah. And then then he also like set all the learning objectives, and they had all like the rate of them meeting their learning objectives was like way higher than any course he had taught before as well. So it was super interesting.
Nice.
A lot of educators in the room. I was kind of out of my element, but but it was interesting. It was interesting. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, we'll be back with more stuff. We did not talk about Final Fantasy VII. I want to spend lots of time talking about that. So we're going to do a separate thing on that because I'm excited. And I told Doug that we have to do a whole thing on that because I want to talk about it for a long time. So that'll be around. I'm sure Doug will be back at PAX next year. We'll have more videos until next PAX. But you can follow us at Workforce Gaming on Twitter. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening, and we will see you later.
Bye-bye.